Greeting Vietnamese Buddhist followers in Vietnam and overseas. I have just returned from Youth Center to the headquarters of Thông Wing System to perform the seventh-day offering ceremony for the spirit of a Buddhist follower, Sir Phạm Thăng Hoa. I like to spend some of my free time answering questions about the Diamond Sutra, which I had preached and translated into English. Some of the second generation of Vietnamese refugees had questions and asked their parents to send to me via email. So I would like to give priority to answering these questions. In previous Dharma talk, I only preached the first two sentences of the Diamond Sutra. The Buddha answered Varmo Dubode and showed him how to rid the delusional mind and to remain in the true mind. The second part of the Dharma talk is also from the same section of the Diamond Sutra. The Buddha praised Varmo Dubode and told him that all the Bodhisattva who wishes to rid the delusional mind and remain the true mind, they must first save the sentient beings in this world. The Buddha divided the sentient beings into four categories. One, being born with viviparous form or birth from the womb, such as humans, cows, buffaloes, swine, or canines, and so on. The second category is being born by oviparous form, like birds, hens, and ducks. Another category is born in moist and wet conditions, such as mosquitoes and worms. And the last category is being born by transformation. For example, if you leave food outside the fridge for a few hours, it will produce germs, and you can see them with your naked eye. So if you look under a powerful microscope, then you can see the living beings. So viviparous or oviparous, born in wet conditions and born by transformation, are the four species that exist in this world, and there are so many living beings. The Buddha explained that if the Bodhisattva wants to rid the delusional mind and remain the true mind, they have to help all four categories mentioned above. They have to help these sentient beings to obtain the everlasting nirvana. That is, every sentient being become a La Hán, so that there is nothing left to be saved. This section of the Diamond Sutra was also translated identically by different translators. A young individual listening to the Dharma talk about Diamond Sutra asked a very good question. He said that the Buddha contraindicated himself as he preached this section in the Dharma Sutra. The Buddha was born in India and he preached Dharma to save sentient beings. This individual said that he knew only 1,250 A La Hán successfully escaped from birth and death cycles, and a few 100,000 layman people obtained Du Da Huan or Sopitapa level and reborn in heaven. However, the Tu Da Huan still undergoes birth and death cycles 7 times to end the birth and death cycle. The Buddha did not save all his relatives, nor all the Indian people. During that time, ancient India had 16 countries, and the Buddha didn't save all his relatives in the Kiplafutstu city. What was the reason that the Buddha said that anyone who wants to rid the delusional mind and remain in the true mind must save all the sentient beings of the 4 categories in this planet and millions of other planets of different solar systems? However, the Buddha himself couldn't even save all the human beings. Buddhism has been propagated until now, but not many human beings were saved. To rid the delusional mind and stay with the true mind, one must save all sentient beings. That was the contraindication the Buddha taught vulnerable to Bodhi. Let me read the original text to you. Du Bodhi, it is wonderful that you mention Tathagata has been instructed the Bodhisattva how to rid the delusional mind and remain the true mind. Listen carefully with your full attention, and I will speak to your question. All living beings, whether born from eggs, from the womb, from moisture, or spontaneously, all living beings must be led by Bodhisattva to the final ending of the cycle of birth and death, so that they all attain the A La Hán level. This unfathomable infinite number of living beings will all have been liberated. In truth, not even a single being has actually been liberated. This is the section asked by one of the Buddhist followers. As you know, this sutra was named a diamond. Diamond is the most precious gem. A little while ago, one of the disciples called me and asked, "What is the essence of the Diamond Sutra? Is it to dispute form and matter? Why did the patriarch and Buddha use diamond as the title of the sutra?" This disciple also stated that diamond is the most precious gem in the world because it is very hard. It can be used to eradicate other materials without being damaged. The original name of the sutra was Paramitabha Vajra Sutra, or Perfect Diamond Sutra. If the Buddha did not accept the formation, then why did he use diamond as the name of the sutra? Because that was his astratic concept. During his time, diamond was also precious. Did you know what the 3 jewels are in Buddhism? They are the Buddha, his Dharma teaching, and his monks. When we went to the temple, we will see the 3 jewels. The Buddha is no longer around. Just his images still remain. The Dharma teaching are still available and being handed down from generation to generation. The monks are still there, but most of you are very discouraged by the monks. So if you do not understand the essence of the Diamond Sutra, then you absolutely cannot get diamonds in Buddhism, but only afflictions. Let me give you an example. As you visit a temple for the first time and accidentally didn't know that a monk was a senior monk who already obtained the vulnerable level, without knowing his statue, you bow to a novice monk before the senior monk. The senior monk would immediately reprimand you because of your lack of respect or lack of knowing who the greater master was. This senior monk did not fully understand the Diamond Sutra because he was still attached to the form of vulnerable and novice monk. The purpose of the Diamond Sutra was for the Buddha to teach his disciple to detach, because attachment only causes more clog and more stuck. For example, many temples require men to stand on the right and women to stand on the left of the praying hall. When strolling, the right foot moves forward while reciting Namoa, and the left foot moves forward while reciting Ayidafa. Those laymen who follow Varnamo Tin Kang in Australia must also wear a brown robe, and those practicing Mahina in Vietnam must wear blue robes. Just those two things apply when you attend the monkhood retreat will stop you from finding your diamond. On the contrary, you can only find dirt and mud of Buddhism. Therefore, you must try to listen to the Diamond Sutra. Now, back to the question that a Buddhist follower submitted after he listened to the previous Dharma talk about the first two sentences of the Diamond Sutra. That is, a Venerable Du Bodhi was receiving alms and eating lunches with the Buddha along the Shangha. It was a normal event like any other day. The Buddha and the Shangha held their bows and walked for alms in the nearby city. Once done, they ate their lunches, washed their bowls, and sat in stillness on the meditation mat under the tree of the Ki Vian Vihara on the bourgeois Kap Kodok. There were no formal Dharma requesting assemblies to increase the ego of the preaching monk. As you can see, there wasn't any layman carrying a vase of different types of flower and formally announcing, "Today is predestined. We are formally requesting the Buddha to give us a Dharma talk." It was quite simple back then. After lunch and washing, bowing, the Buddha sat on his meditation mat and got ready to enter the stillness. Then the elder, Du Bodhi, exposed his right shoulder and kneeled down to ask the Buddha. "Buddha, who remembers, protects, and teaches all Bodhisattva, therefore I want to become a Buddha to save sentient beings. Please teach us how to rid our delusional mind, how to stay with our true minds." As you can see, the Buddha lived a normal life without society class. No bow of different fruits on the right, and vases of flowers on the left, and no drumming of wisdom. There was the unnecessary steps created by the monks in the Dharma ending age to heighten their own ego. Practicing Buddhism requires destroying the ego. No form of self and no form of others. No form of Buddha and form of sentient beings. And finally, there is no need to heighten self-ego and to make others praise you. As a matter of fact, once we understand Buddhist scriptures, we can clearly see that most of the Buddhist disciples in the Dharma ending age, as they preach more Buddhism, their self-ego also increases as well. This is completely wrong within the essence of the Diamond Sutra. Once their cultivations are wrong, it will be impossible for them to turn sand into steamed rice. They don't hold any precious value to be a part of the Buddhist three jewels. At the beginning, when I decided to reappear and preach Dharma, I already understood this. Some temples already had the former Dharma requesting assemblies to perform the requesting ceremony. If you decline the ceremony, then they won't accept you, especially the Buddha temple. I repeatedly request to drop the ceremony, but the formal Dharma requesting assemblies would insist. What did I do? Since they were sick, I had to appear to be sick as well to be close to them. But I was not fully happy to see the temple still have the Dharma requesting ceremony because it was wrong with the no form and also wrong with Buddha's opinion. Buddha was a scrupulous teacher, a wise man with immeasurable merit, yet he did not have the formal Dharma requesting assemblies. In fact, it was very simple. After lunch, he washed his bow and sat on his meditation mat under a tree. Venerable Buddha already attained the Arhat level. He asked the Buddha how would the Bodhisattva cultivate. He asked how to rid the delusion mind and retain the true mind. The Buddha answered this. Please listen, Bodhisattva and Arhats. All the Bodhisattvas who want to rid the delusional mind and reattain the true mind must help all the sentient beings, whether born from eggs, from the womb, from moisture, or spontaneously. All living beings must be led by Bodhisattva to the final ending of the cycle of birth and death, so that they all obtain the Arhat level. And when this infinitesimal, infinite number of living beings have all been liberated, in truth, not even a single being has actually been liberated. I plan to teach this section because there was someone who had already studied Diamond Sutra before he listened to the previous Dharma talk. He asked me why the Buddha contraindicated himself in this section of the Diamond Sutra. The Buddha did not help all of the Indian people nor his relatives. He only helped a number of people, such as 1,250 Arhats obtained the everlasting nirvana. He further helped a number of people reach the heaven realm, and many laymen obtain the Sapitapa to Dahuang level. However, the Buddha did not help the entire India. Yet, he wanted his disciples to do something that he couldn't even do. Therefore, the Buddha hadn't rid his delusional mind and retained his true mind. This is a very good question from a group of young Buddhist disciples who listened to my Dharma talk in the English version. Please listen to my talk. However, I have to warn you, Diamond Sutra is a very dry topic. You need to spend some time listening. Those who hear the Diamond Sutra already met hundreds of thousands of Buddhas. That is the Thích Gamuni's word, not Buddhist monk Thích Tomlai words. Please listen to my answer. First, you have to understand Venerable Buddha asked how to surrender to the delusional mind and remain the true mind. That was the main question of Venerable Buddha. And the answer of the Buddha was, Bodhisattva who wants to rid the delusional mind and retain the true mind must help all the living things, whether born from eggs, from the womb, from moisture, or spontaneously. All living beings must be led by Bodhisattva to the final ending of the cycle of birth and death, so that they all obtain the Arhat level. And when this unfathomable infinite number of living things have all been liberated, in truth, not even a single being has actually been liberated. There were two meanings in this answer. The first meaning was the answer to the monk, that is how to surrender the delusional mind and stay with the true mind. Can you see in our minds we have 4 different species daily? Every day our delusional mind does not leave these 4 species. We must think of species such as when we eat our meals. Those who are not vegetarian would think about the pigs or the cows. That is born from the womb. If they think about chicken, ducks, or fishes, that is giving birth to eggs. Isn't that correct? We also think about killing mosquitoes and the wiggling. That is born from moisture. We then brush our teeth to take antibiotics to kill the bacteria. Those are spontaneous birth. Once in a while, we volunteer to give alms. That is, when we think about heaven or the realms of devas. Devas are also born spontaneously. From time to time, our mind has immeasurable thoughts about 4 species. So how do we rid the delusional mind? As a young man is reaching the age of love and thinking of a girl, that is, he is thinking of being born by womb in humans. If he is thinking of an animal like a bird or a chicken, that is thinking of the birth by egg. He then thinks of going fishing tomorrow. That is also birth by egg. If he thinks the mosquito bites are so much and wants to flip the jars of water to kill these wigglings, that is thinking of being born in the moisture. Then he cooks the food and forgets to store it in the fridge. He was thinking about the germs that spoil his food. That is thinking of spontaneous species. Then he thinks about people who are suffering in need of money in this pandemic. Then he goes to Goodwill and he donates some items. So he had 4 species thoughts in his mind, cycling in the 6 paths of reincarnation. The Buddha said that in order to surrender the delusional mind, we have to save all those beings to become Arhat. That means to enter into the everlasting nirvana, which means no more thoughts. We have to surrender to those distractions. And when those thoughts have all gone away, then we return to the true mind. But really, these are the thoughts that constantly arise in our heads and in our minds. So when the Venerable Dubode, he asked how to surrender the delusional mind, the Buddha said that we must help all the delusions of thinking about the 4 beings in this world into everlasting nirvana, not to help them to become Buddhas. That is a misunderstanding. It can't possibly save them all. To rid the delusional mind, one must help these thoughts go to the everlasting nirvana. That helps them enter the uttermost stillness, so they stop running around. In the past, when we do not help these thoughts, as we think about a beautiful girl, we cannot find a way to approach her to get her phone number and to connect with her. The Buddha said that if we want to rid the delusional mind to avoid misery, then we must help the beautiful girl in our mind to enter the uttermost stillness or everlasting nirvana. People who attain the Arhat level but are still alive and depend on the physical body are called residue nirvana. Once they pass away and are born in a new realm, that realm is called everlasting nirvana. In the Diamond Sutra, the Buddha taught Venerable Du-Bodhi how the Bodhisattva rid their delusional minds. Now I too, if I want to surrender the delusional mind, I have to get rid of all my disciples, the good ones, the bad ones, the hard-working ones, the lazy ones, and the ones who stay in this Conroe Amatet village, and the ones who stay in the Indio Amatet village. I have to save and place them in the everlasting nirvana so that none of them exist in my mind. But really, none of them was saved. It was just a way to terminate my delusional thoughts. The sentence, rid the delusional mind, means clear the wandering thoughts in the head. That is in our own mind. There are 4 species of being. If we are not thinking of animals, then we would be thinking of gods or saints. If we are not thinking of God, then we would be thinking of hell, hungry ghosts, all kinds of things. So that is the mystic meaning in the Diamond Scriptures. If we want to rid the delusional mind, then we have to let all the wandering thoughts settle into everlasting nirvana. When they no longer appear in our heads, then we will be able to remain the pure mind. And we will be out of misery. Understand? Diamond Sutra uses chisel off the egoness, selfness. This morning, there was a Buddhist follower whom called me and told me that his father told him not to listen or recite the Diamond Sutra because it is very mystical. It will make him have a high temper. It will also make the devil and ghosts follow him and bring him bad luck. He was listening to my Dharma talk, and his elders told him that why would Diamond Sutra make him have a high temper? Why would the devils and ghosts disturb him? Because the Diamond Sutra exposes all the devils and ghosts in our minds. When we live with our delusional mind, we become the devil within. We will become the Buddha if we live with our true mind. The Diamond Sutra reveals all the evilness in our minds. Let me give an example. Let's say no forms, no form of selfness, form of the others, form of sentient beings, and form of giving and receiving. Let's say a successful husband who is an engineer or a CEO of a firm who makes a few $100,000 a year and lives in a huge mansion. Once his wife listens to the Diamond Sutra, she no longer treasures his form as a CEO, as an engineer, or a rich man. He lost everything that his wife used to treasure him, because Diamond Sutra reveals everything is not forever lasting. Therefore, he will lose his temper because his ego has been violated. People who practice Buddhism and read the sutras, they understood that they need to let their egos go, that they can feel irritated. Lose their temper because cultivating Dharma should not gain any material benefits. The Buddha preached so strangely, don't you think? Venerable Du-Bodhi asked if the Buddha had cultivated and attained enlightenment or not. The Buddha responded that he had not. Then why would the Buddha say Venerable A La Hán had obtained the first level of Arhat, which was Sarpitana? So if the monk could not understood the Diamond Sutra and their followers know about this sutra, these monks will be irritated. I want to give you an example. I have a disciple. I temporarily not want to tell you where he lives. He has one of those rare disorders, and he was about to give up all hope. He is just like a normal human being who has a university educational level. His English is also very good. However, his immune system was very aggressive, and it makes his skin turn red. He secretes fluid as he walks by certain types of flowers. All modern medical doctors of the United States already has given up hope on his disorder because his immune system was too aggressive. Normally, our immune system is only strong enough to protect our bodies from the virus or foreign chemicals. His illness is from previous life's karma. When he walks by a new area with different air quality conditions, then his body will start to secrete yellow fluid. He is living in misery. He spent 4 years having his disorder treated by all doctors, and they have given up. His body secreted the fluid, and he has to wrap himself in layers of cotton to soak the fluid. Even when he lays in his bed at night, his body keeps secreting yellow-white fluid. He was miserable and asked me to help. I told him that he has 2 illnesses. One is on his physical body, which everyone has, even the Buddha. The other is in his mind. Those are the 2 illnesses, physical and mental. I showed him a few ways to recite the sutra. I asked him if he already recites sutra and chants Buddha's name. He said that he started to recite Buddha's name ever since he took refuge with Arhat Buddhist Society. He recited the name of Buddha a few thousand times a day. I asked him if he already prostrated for repentance, and he said that he also already has. He also recited many different types of mantras. He has memorized them all and recited Medicine Buddha mantra as well. Many monks showed him different types of Buddhist mantras, and he recited them all, but he still has not been cured. In the sutra, the Buddha said that these mantras must be recited a number of times, and all illnesses should be vanished. However, he had recited for years, and nothing has happened. At this point, he just wanted to give up his life. He went to Arhat village to see me. I told him that his illness was caused by karma from his previous lives. It wasn't caused by any virus or bacteria. As he visited Texas, some pollen triggered his immune system, and it made him itch and secrete body fluid. Therefore, he was miserable and not at peace. He asked me what his karma was in his previous lives. Then I used the Buddhist scriptures to explain his illness. During the Ming Dynasty in China, there was a young Mandarin. He passed the National Official Board and accepted a district official position. But he had an illness. Every time he met the king, he had to wrap himself in fabric because his skin would bubble up and secrete yellow fluid. As you know, in the old days during the Ming Dynasty, there was respectful monks who obtained Arhat levels. These monks asked the king to forgive the young Mandarin because their Arhat visions. In a different life, the young Mandarin was a Buddhist monk who had not obtained any level of Arhat, but he said a disrespectful thing to a holy monk. One day, the holy monk went for alms in a far village. He was late to get back and ate his lunch with his colleagues. He was sweating and it soaked his outfit completely. The young Mandarin was a novice monk at the time. He said that the holy monk was sweating and smelled like a toad. That was the holy monks cultivated to be a toad, not a Buddha. Because of the saying, the novice monk rebirthed as a Mandarin with the illness of secreting a yellow fluid and red nodules like a toad. Without the merit of practicing Dharma in the previous life, the novice monk would be in hell. The national shaman told the young Mandarin to repent for his actions in the previous life. He set up a repentance platform, and 3 months went by, but his illness still not cured. He came back and asked the national shaman that he had repented for 3 months, but his illness was not cured. The shaman told him that he repented for the old karma from previous life, but he hadn't done anything for the current karma. The young Mandarin must do a lot of good deeds to balance out with the new karma. The Mandarin said that being a district official, he had done a lot of good things, such as forgiving prisoners, donating and giving alms, and many more. He did all sorts of things, but why didn't he get merit? The shaman asked the Mandarin if he frequently felt giving up and he wanted to commit suicide. As the young Mandarin admitted it was true, the shaman then told the Mandarin that his misery was caused by himself. Because he did not read the Diamond Sutra. The essence of the Diamond Sutra was to destroy the self-ego. His misery existed because he had not detached from the form of selfness, the form of a Mandarin, of a district official. Why had his illness not cured after 3 months of repentance? Because every day he saw his illness still there. He wanted to kill himself. His mother went through labor, laboring pain, to raise him. She loved him dearly and afraid he would die. He wanted to die because his ego wouldn't accept a Mandarin that had eczema. In his mind, a Mandarin must have a healthy body. Without the merit from cultivating Dharma, he would be born in a poor family, become a beggar, and die at a young age, not as a district official like he was. That was the reason he has to repent. Every time he wanted to give up his life, he made his mother sad. That is the sin of an unfiled according to the Earth-stored Sutra. I told the young disciple the story. He repented, but he also felt depressed and wanted to end his life while he was in his early 20s. He had done anything to contribute to society, hadn't paid taxes nor repay his mother. Yet he made his mother suffer day and night. Therefore, his merit from reciting Buddha's name couldn't balance his previous life karma because he constantly made his mother sad. So you know that our suffering is caused by ego attachment. The more we attach, the greater the suffering. For example, a poor class husband who worked as a hired laborer or an assembler. He happened to marry a rich girl, moved in with her family. To other people, he was a lucky man. However, his wife's relatives made him do hard work and treat him disrespectfully. He was more miserable than being single. Now, if the husband used to be a commander, he held millions of dollars and had an army in his hand. But because of circumstances, he had to be in prison in the so-called re-educational labor camp. Once he got released and married the same type of rich girl, the rich family treated him exactly the same way the poor class husband were treated. However, the suffering of the poor is less than the suffering of someone who used to have a high social status. So, who stands out to make the misery more or less? No one. It was only our ego attachment mind. The higher the ego, the more the suffering. The mind without having much ego attachment and no form attachment, no form of praise, no reproach, no form of others, and no form of sentient beings, then that person will end his suffering. So you have to understand that this sutra is called the Diamond Sutra because it reveals the most precious kind of wisdom so that we can detach from all the forms. If you go to the temple, you see even the Buddha said that he did not cultivate nor attained. In my Dharma language, if a monk or a nun, one day they said that they had practiced very well and have obtained, if I witness that, I will be trembling. If they say that they have already attained enlightenment and all sufferings were gone, I know a great disaster will come to that principle. Why is that? Because the longer that person cultivates to see himself cultivate, and others do not cultivate to see himself obtain, and see others do not obtain, that means this person has not truly understood.